This is starting to wear on me.
Can't believe I'm saying this so early on in the year. So for the first time this year, it is Graham here, living the dream in 2022, and welcome to the first episode in our Cheeky Weekend series. The story behind this Cheeky Weekend is quite simple. You've all met our awesome friends Donna and Michael from Glasgow on the various sandals videos that we've made over the years. Well, Donna and Michael have gone and bought an apartment in Spain. That's the first thing. And the second thing, Donna is celebrating rather a significant birthday this weekend. So Fiona and I thought we would jump on a Ryanair down to Alicante and meet them to celebrate their new apartment and Donna's significant birthday. I had no plans to vlog this trip, but Michael said to me, why don't you, Graham, why don't you bring your GoPro down with you and let's have a look at what there is to offer in the Alicante and Valencia area of Spain in February. And with Storm Dudley starting to rage outside, that's a great idea. And this first episode is going to be a trip report, and it's going to be a trip report on board Ryanair. I haven't flown Ryanair since 2012, so 10 years ago this year, and the trip's going to be from Prestwick down to Alicante in Spain. Both the Spanish governments and the UK governments have started to lift a lot of their COVID-19 restrictions. For Spain, we were just simply required to fill out a locator form because the government requirements are that you should be double vaccinated. Fiona and I have been triple vaxxed, so we are good to go on a locator form only. Coming back to the UK, about a week or so ago, the UK government announced that there was no PCR test, no lateral flow test requirements for passengers travelling back into the UK. I think that also requires you to be at least double vaccinated. I'm not 100% sure because it really doesn't matter to us, because both Fiona and I had our third booster jab in December 2021, so just under 2 months ago. So after the introduction, let's jump forward to Friday and day one of our Cheeky Weekend.
You've been raining down like hail. I'm weak.
You join Fiona and I at stupid o'clock on Friday morning on day one of our Cheeky Weekend on the M77 driving towards Prestwick Airport in Ayrshire. When I recorded the introduction to this video on Wednesday, we were in the midst of Storm Dudley. But by Friday morning, we were in the midst of Storm Eunice. But for Fiona and I, the great news was we didn't get the snow that the weather forecasters were promising us. For those of you who don't know, Prestwick Airport used to be the home of Ryanair in Scotland. And while I believe Ryanair still have a maintenance base here at Prestwick, today Edinburgh would be their main hub in Scotland. However, Ryanair still fly a number of European routes from Prestwick Airport, and today Fiona and I are booked on the 6:15 service to Alicante in Spain. But other than Ryanair, I'm not sure if there are any other scheduled services from this airport other than a myriad of cargo routes by the likes of DHL. I did visit Prestwick Airport a number of times as a child back in the 1970s, and to be quite honest with you guys, it hasn't changed in 40 years. Fiona and I had booked her car into the number 1 premium car park, so right outside the front door, and guys, I can tell you it was pretty cheap. So on a day like today, when it is blowing a hoolie and is dumping down with rain, it was going to be a quick sprint from Fiona's car to the airport terminal. And if you're confused why there are no barriers entering the car park, I can tell you guys, so were we. Because according to the online ticket that I received after booking, we were expecting the automatic number plate recognition to lift the barrier as we approached it. But yeah, there were no barriers. But when Fiona questioned the very nice gentleman at the information desk in the departure hall, he explained that the barriers had been removed due to the very high winds. Yep, high winds and aeroplanes definitely go together, not. So driving around the number 1 premium car park at Prestwick Airport, Fiona and I decided we were probably here, so it was time to park up.
Up on the other side of the moon, the sun don't rise, all the light is gone from me.
I did say that it was going to be a very quick sprint from the car to the terminal building here at Prestwick Airport. And I did warn you that this airport terminal was a throwback from the 1960s or the 1970s, maybe both. Today the airport terminal is run by the Scottish Government, and as we all know how governments run countries, I will leave you to decide for yourself how the Scottish Government run Prestwick Airport. And an interesting fact about Prestwick Airport, there is a statue of Elvis in the arrivals hall. Yep, Elvis's private jet landed at Prestwick once in the 1960s or the 1970s, and that deserves a statue. But to be honest guys, Prestwick Airport is still used today by a lot of private aircraft flying between Europe and the United States. It has a very long runway and the landing fees are very cheap. But you probably already know that because Ryanair use Prestwick Airport as well. The first thing we did is we headed to the information desk to check out what the story was regarding the parking and the parking barriers. And I do want to say now that every staff member that we met at Prestwick Airport on this flight out to Alicante were absolutely superb. From the guy behind the information desk to the team working the security line, everyone was extremely friendly, even at stupid o'clock on a wet and windy Friday morning.
I did give you my soul, but you can't love something.
Yep, even in this throwback to a bygone age of aviation in the last century, you're forced to walk through duty free en route to the bar. Oh sorry, I mean coffee shop, because it's not 12 o'clock yet. Anyway, all of you who watch these videos know that I absolutely hate shopping, but I live with a wife who loves shopping, so I was so proud of her today when she simply walked through and bought nothing.
From me and you, time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon.
And just wait for it guys, we're about to enter the departure lounge at Prestwick Airport, and what an exciting place that is. But you know what, it does have seating, it has a W.H. Smith and it has a bar, which doubles up as a coffee shop, or a place that you can get a microwaved roll and sausage or bacon sandwich for an exorbitant price, of course. And with it being just after 5:15 on a Friday morning, and pretty well all the Ryanair flights heading to sunshine destinations in Spain or the Canary Islands, there was plenty of Tennent's Lager being consumed. Not that you'd ever see me drinking Tennent's Lager, it was before 12 noon, so Fiona and I were heading for a coffee and one of those microwaved bacon sandwiches, which we had to cancel because Ryanair was boarding an hour before departure. And maybe that's a good idea, because after too much Tennent's Lager, you're not going to find your way through the rabbit warren of Prestwick Airport and find your aircraft. But in that famous low-cost airline tradition, Ryanair were no different. Fiona and I were simply walking from one line to another, in the hope we would soon be boarding our chariot to Alicante.
Sun don't rise, all the light is gone from me and you. Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon.
This morning they were letting us out in batches to the aircraft, which wasn't a bad thing due to the rain and the wind. And right outside the door, our Ryanair 737-800 awaits us. I know there are a lot of jokes out there about Ryanair, but let's be clear guys, they're one of the most profitable airlines in Europe, so something they must be doing is right. And for the princely sum of £7 each, Fiona and I had reserved seats 3A and 3B, so we'd be boarding by the front steps, behind a bunch of lads who of course had spent much longer in the bar than us, partaking in lots of Tennent's Lager. I'm not sure about their shorts because right now it's about -4 degrees, so maybe Tennent's warms you up. Okay, let's jump over to Flight Radar 24 and have a look at today's routing from Prestwick in Ayrshire down to Alicante in Spain. We would be departing into the snow on runway 12 on Prestwick, so in a southeasterly direction. We would then be turning in a southwesterly direction towards the Northern Irish coastline, tracking down the east coast of Ireland, passing Dublin just off our right hand wing. We would then cross the Irish Sea overhead Cornwall. We would then cross the English Channel overhead the Brest Peninsula in northwest France towards the Bay of Biscay, crossing the northern Spanish Spanish coastline between Santander and Bilbao. From there we'll be looking down on our left hand side at the Pyrenees Mountains before routing directly towards Alicante in southeast Spain. We would then be approaching the Alicante area from the northwest, where we would be landing on runway 28. And the scenery was absolutely beautiful on arrival, so watch out for that in a few minutes. So with Fiona and I all masked up to comply with the COVID regulations, we sat back in seats 3A and 3B, ready for our 3-hour scheduled flight between Prestwick and Alicante on board Ryanair. But as you all know, departing in the dark means for really poor video. I'm doing my best, guys. I promise that our arrival in Alicante will be a lot nicer.
It's a shame to watch us fade away.
Sitting on the left hand side of the aircraft looking eastward, the sunrise was absolutely gorgeous this morning above the clouds. And about a week before the flight, I took the decision to pre-order breakfast. After all, it was a very early start on this Friday morning. So as soon as the crew were released after departure, they were very quick to our seats to ask us what we would like for breakfast. Fiona ordered a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea, and I ordered the cheese and ham panini with a coffee. We both had a Bueno chocolate bar. I also want to take the opportunity to praise the crew on this flight. They did an absolutely fantastic job and they were very friendly and efficient. For those of you who watch the channel on a regular basis, you will know that I normally don't talk about money, but this flight was excellent value in my opinion. From memory, the ticket price on the flight between Prestwick and Alicante was only £27. I think it was £24 for the flight back on Sunday night. By the time we booked our carry-on luggage, priority boarding and seats 3A and seats 3B, I think the overall price for the ticket was around £200 return for the both of us, so I do think that provides excellent value. Well done, Ryanair. Even adding breakfast on the way down and a snack on the way back, we were still well under £250 for this round trip for the pair of us. And given that last month I booked a return flight between Glasgow and London Heathrow, which cost me nearly £500 for the pair of us, I think this 3-hour Ryanair flight between Prestwick and Alicante was excellent value indeed. As I said in the introduction, this was the first time that I'd flown Ryanair in 10 years, and it was a lot longer for Fiona. So given that the flight left on time, arrived on time and was relatively comfortable, as a European ultra low cost airline, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them. So as we approach the northern Spanish coastline between Santander and Bilbao, I'm going to shut up and let you enjoy the stunning scenery as we made our approach into Alicante. I'll get back to you once we're on the ground.
Been raining down like hail. I'm weak. I have tried to give you my soul, but you can't love something you own. It's too late to repair what we made. What can I do? Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon. The sun don't rise, all the light is gone from me and you. Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon. The sun don't rise, all the light is gone from me and you.
flight. For those of you who smoke, please kindly refrain from doing so until you reach a designated smoking area well outside the main terminal building. For more information on our new routes, low fares, car hire, travel insurance, Ryanair room plans, or you can visit us on the web at ryanair.com. Finally, on behalf of your captain and all the crew aboard this morning's flight, we'd like to thank you for choosing to fly with us. It has been a pleasure taking care of you, and we look forward to seeing you all aboard another scheduled service in the near future. We would like to wish you all a safe onwards journey or a pleasant stay here in the local area. From us all on board, thank you and good morning. Please continue to wear your face mask. Thank you.
So all in all, that was a great flight on board Ryanair. And just think that 3 hours earlier we departed Prestwick in freezing temperatures with Storm Eunice bearing down on the entire country with an amber weather warning. And here we are 3 hours later in sunny southeast Spain, where the temperatures today were expected to reach between 19 and 21 degrees. That's approximately 70 degrees Fahrenheit for any Americans watching the video. And even if our cheeky weekend was only 3 days, Fiona and I were so looking forward to our 3 days away from the Scottish weather. At this point I would be cutting the video to go through passport control, and this trip was going to be rather different for us because it was the first time Fiona and I had flown in to Europe since Brexit, and as we were both travelling on British passports, that meant we could no longer use the EU line. And very interestingly, our passports were stamped. I don't even think my passport was stamped the last time I entered the United States. But after clearing passport control and then the COVID checks, where the QR code on our Spanish locator forms were scanned, Fiona and I were now heading to the arrivals hall where we would be meeting Donna and Michael, who arrived on the same flight 5 days earlier. So this is where I'm going to bring part one of our cheeky weekend to a close, and we will continue with Friday and day one in the next episode. So you know what to do if you want to continue to follow the channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified when the next video is published. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.